Welcome to the Dodo Dads Podcast, where we talk with real dads who are in the trenches raising daughters and doing their best to get it right. Through honest conversations, shared experiences, and a little humor, this show is designed to encourage, equip, and inspire good fathers to become even better girl dads. I am Greg Gerber, the founder of Dodo Dads and the father of 3 now grown young women with families of their own. Today I'm joined by Garr Russell, a father of 4 who's raising sons and daughters with intention, structure, and a whole lot of heart. This is one of those conversations where you're going to hear conviction and real-world experience. Garr isn't speaking theory, he's in the middle of raising a 17-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old daughter while navigating everything in between. In this episode, you'll hear several powerful takeaways. First, Garr shares why he believes every child must understand their identity, who they are and whose they are, and how everything in life flows from that foundation. Second, we talk about the importance of being available as a dad, especially when your daughter is ready to empty the teapot late at night and just needs you to listen instead of fix her problems. Third, Garr explains the guardrails he's put in place around phones, social media, and friendships, including why he eliminated social media entirely and limits friendships to a small, meaningful circle. Fourth, he walks through his philosophy on dating, or more accurately, why his family focuses on intentional friendships instead of traditional dating. Finally, Garr shares how he and his wife are raising their kids with an entrepreneurial mindset, teaching them how to think independently, create opportunities, and take ownership of their future. This is a practical, honest conversation about raising daughters in today's world without losing your own values or your connection. To tell us more about his experience as a faith-filled girl dad, please welcome Garr Russell to the show. Thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it, Garr. I understand you have 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, so you're coming at this from a unique perspective of having raised both.
Yes, sir. Yep. We got a 17-year-old daughter, 15-year-old son, 11-year-old son, and 9-year-old daughter. So we're at various stages of life right now with the children.
I love it. Now, what was your reaction when you found out you were going to be a girl dad many years ago?
I don't necessarily remember my reaction when I found out I was going to be a girl dad, but I do remember bringing her home from the hospital in Michigan on a snowy day. She was born on Christmas Eve, and she was born via C-section after Tina pushing for, I forget how many hours, and then passing out, and the doctor losing the heartbeat on my daughter at this hospital where they say, we try to do it all natural. And I said, okay, folks, we've left natural a while ago. Go get my little girl out of there.
No kidding. That would be a frightening experience and way to kick off fatherhood. My goodness. And did she have to spend any time in the ICU?
No, she just had to wear one of those little cone things on her head to help straighten it out from mom trying to push her out forever in a day.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, so you found out you were going to be a girl dad and you were all right with it? Did you know in advance or did you find out that day?
No, we found out in advance. Interestingly enough, Mr. Greg, the Lord told us all of our kids' genders before the doctor ever confirmed it.
Really? Oh my
goodness. Yeah, he even told us our 4th's name separately. I come out of the shower and Tina says, Garr, I've got something to tell you. And I said, I know, Isabella. And the Lord was speaking to her in the kitchen about Tina, just one more and name her Isabel. So I was off. Tina got Isabel, I got Isabella. But I kid you not, in that morning, Emma, our oldest, had come down and said, right after Tina was talking to the Lord about this, our Emma came down and said, Mom, when will you have another baby in your belly? And Tina said, what made you think to ask that? She's like, I don't know. I just thought it. And Tina said, let me tell you, that was the Lord that was speaking to you, honey, because he just told me before you came down, one more, and he told me her name.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
isn't that amazing?
Yes, that is indeed. It kind of gives me goosebumps all over my arms.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Since you have both, what is the biggest difference between raising girls and raising boys?
I'd say the different way that hormones and emotions are processed, right? Because you have a girl that is laughing 1 second and crying the next. You have a boy who's laughing 1 second, the next second you think, oh my gosh, is this kid about to strike me or put his fist through the wall? Like the range of emotions, but the directions they go, I would say is the biggest difference.
What did you have to do to cope with all of that?
It's been interesting because Emma's 17 now. She turned 17 in December, and Garrison just turned 15. He's a December baby as well. And it's definitely easier with number two at 15 because you realize that is a really tough year for kids is 15. But on the opposite side of that, it's easier knowing that it's a hard year, but then it throws you off because they process emotions totally different. So it's really just learning too that there's no formula because once you think you figure it out with one, then the next one gets to that age and that phase, and you realize this is a completely unique human being with their own sets of views of the world and how they process thoughts and emotions and feelings. And so it's that flexibility of realizing, like, hey, this is an individual that you can't just think, I did this with A, I need to do it with B.
That's funny that you said that because I knew a guy who had 5 kids, and he said, when I got married, I had 5 theories on raising children. And after 5 kids, I have zero theories on how to do that because they are so unique. And you really can't program them because they come pre-programmed, although you can influence the direction of the things that they're going to do and stuff like that. You had December babies. Was that easy?
It didn't change my life at all, but for the kids, it's definitely a little interesting as they grow up and having to share their birthday with Jesus's birthday, but
right.
And with each other. We were full-time RVers for 5 years. We got really creative because as we were traveling the country and we come back and we'd see everybody, we'd usually shove a lot of events into like one meeting. I'd say they got over it probably fairly well because it's like, hey, we're heading back to Michigan. We're doing birthdays, open houses, Christmas, and maybe even Thanksgiving. So they're just like, all right, whatever. They got over it.
My youngest was born on the 19th of December, and she did not like being a Christmas week baby. She felt that she got jilted out of a lot of gifts and attention because everybody's like, this is your Christmas gift and your birthday gift. And
yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay. What do you and your daughter like to do together?
I would say we like to laugh together. We do. I always say my oldest Emma is the funniest person that I know. And I consider myself to be a pretty funny person. Like I always do a good job of making light of it, bringing laughter into the situation. But my daughter Emma, she is the funniest person that I know by far. And so we just love having fun together and laughing. That I would say is our most favorite thing to do is that for sure.
Do you get to go on one-on-one outings with each of your kids, especially your daughters?
Yeah, we do one-on-one outings. We used to do a lot more of them, it seems like, as they were when they were younger, and life was a lot more controlled as far as they didn't necessarily have their own thoughts and ideas of what they wanted to do today or this week or this month. But we still do. Yeah, I've actually just been re-implementing that recently. Mondays, my 15-year-old will go play pool together. I got a membership at this pool hall, and then we'll do a little driver's training. Tuesday is sushi day with my 9-year-old. She loves sushi, so we go to Publix and buy some sushi and go sit at the lake. And then me and Noah, we do a similar thing. We go play pool and have lunch together. And then Emma, the 17-year-old, hers are more sporadic. It's like you learn with the olders the moment where they're ready to go, which is usually when you're ready to go to bed. Like you've got all right, they're ready to what I call empty their teapot for the girls. All right, she's ready to empty her teapot, Dad. Like sit up and just hold on and listen. Here she goes. She's about to unload for 30 minutes. And so those are probably more of our one-on-ones. Plus, we bought a restaurant last May and we all work together. So we have a lot of family time there too, which is really cool.
I can imagine that it's harder when the older kids are involved in so many activities and things like that to make one-on-one outings a priority. But I like what you said about your emptying the teapot, because others have told me that as dads, we have to be available when our older daughters want to talk. It's not something that we can schedule to have those kind of conversations. So it sounds like you are very much like me. My daughters would walk into my office late at night and just sit down, and you knew that was it. There was something on her mind that she wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it's so true. It's almost like too with like the Lord. I feel like I just heard this again recently. Like our greatest gift to God is our availability, is just being available when he has something he wants to speak to us or something he wants us to do. And it's the same with our kids. It's just being available, even if them just knowing you're available, they might not even want anything. Just knowing you're available is definitely a huge blessing.
Did you have to learn to prioritize listening over trying to jump in and fix your daughter's problems?
Yeah, I still feel like I'm learning that honestly, because I've been married 20 years in May, and it's just so ingrained in us as guys, because we see things so logically and not emotionally. They're 45 seconds into what would have been a 7-minute story if we didn't stop them, and we already know the solution, but it's like getting it through our thick dodo heads, right? That, hey, they're not wanting the solution yet. First, they want to empty the teapot, give you every detail and who was there and what the room looked like and what everybody was wearing and how it made her feel. Then possibly at the end, they might say, what do you think about that? But most times it's the solution is you just are available and you listen.
Are your daughters open to advice?
Yeah, I'd say very much more to me, depends on the subject. Talking about boys, I think my daughter more recently, she's going to my wife because I'm like, honey, you don't even need anything to do with boys. Like, keep focusing on this and that. But she still, right, sees boys and they're attractive, all these things. But yeah, I'd say most of the times my daughter would come to me for most of her advice outside of mom, unless it's the boy thing. She's realized, okay, I'm not getting anywhere with dad, so I'm going to go to mom for this.
When my youngest was in college, I remember sending her a bouquet of candy on Valentine's Day, some fundraiser they were having at the school. And I put in a message: roses are red, violets are blue. Let Jesus be your man till you're done with school. And it didn't work. She got married a year or two later. So, yes, that's hard to do. Girls tend to want to be popular, and they're really fixated on that, especially if they're watching TV and watching the culture and things like that. How did you manipulate that, or not manipulate it, but work around that to teach them that popularity comes with a cost?
Yeah, that was huge for Emma when she was 15, going through that really hard year where she was wrestling with her faith with the Lord and her identity and friendship and wanting to be liked. And she has that same bent that I have as a person of humor. We want to be liked by everybody. So all those combinations together makes it really rough. And one of the major things that we did to help her through that was there came a point where we just cut off all social media. It just became a rule in our house: no more social media. Adults can't even handle social media. How are we to think a 15, 16-year-old can navigate through social media? And so we just made that tough decision. There's no social media. And that right there in itself cut out a majority of the noise, a majority of the messaging, because these kids on social media, they will post a picture and make a statement and this and that and the cyberbullying. So we made that tough decision for our Emma, and none of our other kids below her have had it, but Emma was the only one to have it for a little bit, and then we cut it off. That was the major thing that we did. And then the second thing that we've done, which I think has been really powerful, is we really cut her friend group down, very minimal. And those friends, most of the time they're together, it's at our house. So it's on our turf, on our terms, so we can see not only, who these kids are and what's going on in their lives, but also so they can see our home and our lives and what a normal family looks like. And that's been a blessing to our Emma and also to these girls. The amount of girls that even Emma has baptized, led to the Lord, that we've been able to minister to, buy Bibles for, because we've kept them in our environment. And it's the hard thing to do, right? The easy thing to do is like, yeah, just be home by 10, right? Then the house is quiet. You can enjoy your wife and watch a movie. But really, this is the years that are the most important, where we need to keep make our house the central house where the activity is taking place.
I remember picking up one of my daughters from a party that was taking place at some house, and the father talked to me for a little bit while they were wrapping up the party. And I asked him, "How do you handle all the noise?" And he says, "I take it anytime because I know where my kids are. I know who they're with. I know what they're talking about. Everybody comes over here, and we make it as welcoming as possible for my kids and their friends to get together at our house."
Yeah, so true and so good. And it's the hard path, but it's so worth it to know. And not only can you have an impact on your kids' lives, you can have an impact on others' lives.
Absolutely, because many kids are growing up without fathers, so you can pour into their life as well.
Yeah, so true.
Was there any resistance or pushback to the no social media rule when it was implemented?
When we implemented it, she had just gotten herself into a decent amount of trouble. So there wasn't a lot of resistance in regards to that. What more of what we were finding is a little bit of trying to sneak around, like a friend would open an account for her in her name, and then she's with her friend. She could see it on her friend's phone. And then one time we caught her, she had, they call it a trap phone, is the term. And so her friend had given her, because her friend got the new iPhone, so her friend gave her the old iPhone. So she had a trap phone up in her bedroom that had the social media on it for a little bit. She's a clever girl, so she tried a couple different ways, but we always say, honey, your parents walk closely with the Lord and we pray a lot. I said the Holy Spirit's going to bust you, and our kids do. We literally just had something the other night with our 15-year-old. Within 2 hours, 2 hours of him and his buddy doing this, it was exposed. And he's like, oh my gosh, I can't get away with nothing. So yeah, there was not so much as resistance, like trying to argue with me. It was more of like trying to circumvent the system.
I can imagine. I hear that very often is that the teenagers have friends who will give them the information or give them the phones, the devices, etc. And even to the point of slipping them pornography on thumb drives and things like that. It's probably not as big an issue for girls as it is for boys, but good for you to being on top of that and minimalizing their friends. That would be a good thing as well, I would imagine. But does that mean that you have to interview the people they're going out with or going to do anything with or have over?
Yeah, usually the deal is, yeah, they're coming to our house at the beginning of the friendship. And honestly, the point we're at right now with Emma, she's 17 in December, she's got 10 more, 11 more months till she heads off to YWAM in California. She literally has 3 friends, and that's it. Like, we're not even interested in, like, hey, you met somebody new. Like, okay, that's great. But honey, you can only manage so many friendships. And if you want meaningful friendships, they're a lot of work. So at this point in your life, once you head off to California, if you want to try to have 100 friends and steward all those relationships, go for it. But it's just not feasible. It's You're not going to have friendships of any depth. And she's to that point now where I feel like she's starting to settle down. Like, oh yeah, there's a football game. Like, I'm not interested. And stuff like that, where like she's gotten through that, the whole, and with her being homeschooled too, that's puts her in a different environment where when you're in a public school system, there's a lot more opportunities to meet people and all those kind of things. But she's definitely balanced out and she's content.
I was going to ask about that. If you were homeschooling your children, is it just your oldest or are you doing all of the kids homeschooling?
No, sir, we've homeschooled all of our kids their whole school career, except we put Emma into private school for about 10 weeks. And that was it. But the whole rest of all their schooling has been homeschool.
Oh, and was that because she had requested the opportunity to go to a school?
It was a perfect storm. She had this friend of hers that was a decent girl. It was a private Christian school. Her friend's mom was the principal of the school, and the school only went up to 8th grade. Now, this mom was like, oh my gosh, my daughter has to leave here and go to a different school for 9th grade. So the mom decided, as the principal, hey, we're just going to open a 9th grade. So it was going to be a very small class with like 6 or 8 students. So it was like this perfect little storm. I thought, honey, let's give it a shot. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, we can just pull her out. Like, we're not committed to, like, once she goes, she's there forever. And so we gave it a shot, and it just didn't work out. It just wasn't for us.
Okay. Was she okay with the school?
Oh yeah, I think she would probably tell you that she'd been happy to keep going. But yeah, we saw just things in her character and things that she was exposed to that we just thought we're not going to do it.
That is one of the benefits of homeschooling, that's for sure. Now, you have multiple businesses yourself, and your own website talks about faith lived out loud. That's what you're trying to do. And you're forming disciples and building entrepreneurs. Are you teaching business skills to your daughters?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, we've taken our kids through different entrepreneurial courses. We have that they've worked in various things. They all work at the family restaurant now. So they're learning a ton there. We've had them launch different things. They've done when we were RVing, dog walking, and take your trash out and clean your golf clubs. And then they started car washing businesses and baking and sales and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, we're very big into teaching our kids about the entrepreneurial lifestyle and just really too showing them, hey, these are the two paths. This is what it looks like when you work for somebody. This is what it looks like when you work for yourself or somebody works for you. And which path would you rather, walk? Do you want someone telling you where to be and when to be there? Do you want somebody telling you when you can take vacation and what your pay will be? Or do you want to be able to determine those things for yourself? And so, yeah, that's very much part of our schooling.
Yeah. Has she expressed any career aspirations and things she'd like to do when she graduates?
So she heads off to YWAM next February in California. That's a missionary training school. She'll go to there for 4 months, and then they'll send her out to a third world country for a couple months. And then she's always said, you know how you hold up that little picture in front of yourself at your first day, third grade, I'm going to be an astronaut. We've always done those with her, and she's always said that she's going to be a missionary, and she's always had a heart for orphans. We're pretty confident something's going to happen there in regards to that. The Lord knows, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the most important lessons that you think daughters need to know today?
Number one is identity of who they are and whose they are. That's one of the things that we repeat with our kids that their love called kept, Jude 1:1. We have mantras for all of our kids that they read as part of their homeschooling. I was made on purpose for a purpose. I was made to know God and make him known. And then I have specific gifts and callings, and then there's specific gifts. But yeah, number one is definitely identity because it all flows out of identity. If you don't know whose you are, when life happens, you're going to interpret that situation through that filter.
Mm-hmm.
And if life happening to you is interpreted in a certain way, that's going to start to smear or misconstrue your identity, and then that's going to take into the next situation and it just can totally throw you off path. So identity is definitely number one. And then one of my biggest things with homeschooling, obviously reading, writing, math. But I tell my wife, I'm like, outside of that, geography, history, science, all these things, I said, I want them to know the Lord's voice, and I want them to be sensitive to the world around them. I don't want them to walk by somebody who's hurting and just be able to walk by and be like, oh, yeah, look at that person. I want them to be sensitive to the world and the people around them. To be more specific, I want them to be able to operate at a high level of discernment, to know what's going on around them, what's going on in the times, in their family, in their heart, in their community. And so that to me is the most important items.
I like that you're teaching them what their gifts are or letting them discover that earlier. And I guess that's a benefit of homeschooling is that the students can get an idea that I'd like to learn more about this, and they can structure their own teaching around what they want to learn at that time. Whereas they have the assigned agenda curriculum at schools that this week we're studying this, next week we're doing that, and the week after we're doing this. So it's neat that they are able to go out and learn that stuff. Have you given them like personality tests and things like that to help them discover their communication skills? And in addition to,
Yeah, yep, definitely. We've done some of that, especially with Emma. She's done several of the different DISC personality profile and a couple others. And really, one of the most important ones that we've done with them. It's Romans 12:6 through 8, the motivational gifts, like what drives them, mercy or exhortation or serving. Or there's a really good book by that called Know Your Ministry by Marilyn Hickey. And so Emma's been walked through that and studied that and taken the test. And two, we just being close with our kids and being in tune with them of like, okay, Garrison really enjoys the outdoors. Like, man, I notice he's out there fishing and he's standing next to three other boys and he's caught three fish and they've caught one fish. Like that's a gifting on his life. And man, he just made a homemade bow and arrow. And man, look at Emma. She just noticed that girl over there who's not connecting with the rest of the group, and she felt compassion for her. And so just know, and oh, look at Noah. At the restaurant, Noah will walk out front of the restaurant. He'll be in the back doing dishes. He's 11 years old. He'll walk out front and he'll be like, hey, girls, we need to do this and that and move this over here. The customers will look at him almost offended, like, who's this little kid that just came out of the back that's barking orders at grown adults? That's my Noah, and he's a leader. That's part of how God has gifted him. So instead of saying, hey, who's this kid? It's like identifying those gifts. And then also at the same time saying, hey, Noah, let's throw a please and thank you at the end of that. I get that you see this need, but let's package it in a little bit of love there, buddy. So that's been part of their mantra, is like that their specific gifts and their specific callings. And then the specific gift and the callings, like for Emma, she just went through, it's called Light University. She just went through and got her certification as a youth mental health coach. So she's gone through, and a youth mental trauma coach. So she just got those certifications. I think she's only completed one, actually, to learn, how to spot somebody who, man, I can tell they've been through trauma, how to connect with them, how to ask certain questions and walk them through. And so, yeah, just different things like that to prepare them.
I know that you've limited their friends so that they only have a couple of close, deep relationships with a few people, but I've heard of other fathers talking to their daughters about, if you want a lot of friends, you find that person sitting alone and you start up that conversation with them and you start the friendship with that. And then they become their own group of people who just genuinely seem to care about each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And see, that was the thing too. We learned the hard way with Emma, is she has a heart for these hurting girls. So man, she just attracted these girls who just had trauma, dad's not present, all these things. And she started wearing the weight of their lives and almost feeling like a victim herself in a sense, and trying to help all these girls, all these different things, and then getting caught into some of the thoughts and words and actions of these girls. So we really had to help her reevaluate and understand, like, hey, honey, one of our sayings and our mantras, we are leaders, not saviors. So it's like, hey, this is how we lead and but we're not the savior. We have to point them to Jesus. We have to point them to the Savior. And instead of trying to help fix all their problems, we need to point them to the fixer, because otherwise we're going to be wearing all these weights and burdens. And we saw her doing that and carrying all this heaviness of these girls. But then also some of the choices she started to make, right? Because like the scripture says, bad company corrupts good morals. Hey, Emma, if you're hanging out with a group of 3 girls that are making horrible decisions, guess what? You're going to have a bad decision sneak in here and there. And so we learned that one the hard way. And so where we had to get a little more protective and start bringing it more onto our turf, on our terms.
I just completed a Dave Ramsey course. I don't know if you've ever been through anything like that, but as I'm going through that, I'm thinking, man, I failed as a father by not teaching my kids these basic financial things like saving, investing, etc. Do you include that as part of your homeschooling curriculum, or is that just something you do as a matter of, this is how our family operates?
Yeah, so we've definitely done some with budgeting. More of it's been like, this is what you're going to do. Like with their cars, with their first cars, like Emma obviously has a car, she's 17. Garrison actually bought his first car 3 months ago. He's only 15. And so we had car accounts for them where it's like, hey, X amount of this money automatically goes into your car account. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then teaching them some of the things with budgeting. And then 2, it's been more recently with Emma, tithing. And so was trying to teach her about tithing. It actually turned into a joke because we're sitting in church one day and the pastor's talking on tithing, and she's sitting right next to me and I'm writing notes. And then I wrote in big all caps, I wrote, pray for Emma. She don't tithe. And then me and her both start giggling about it. And then I talked to her a little bit more about it. And I didn't want to force it upon her, but I was actually talking to my wife the other night. I said, I think I'm going to actually just make another mandatory thing we do in our home. So it just becomes normal to them. But what I started doing, what the Lord had me do for Emma, he actually started having me tithe on her behalf. Right? You think about how you pray on someone's behalf, you fast for them, you intercede for them. So literally, I started dropping $100 every Sunday in the bucket on Emma's behalf, standing in the gap for her. And God is so good. Literally, several weeks later, she's like, "Hey, Dad, somebody came into the restaurant. And I just felt this compassion. I paid for their meal." And I'm like, praise God. And she actually goes to a different church than us now. She told me several weeks ago, "Hey, Dad, I was at church and I put money in the bucket." So, like, she's starting to open to be a giver. And so it's just, but I was literally telling Tina just the other night, I think we're just going to make it mandatory with the kids. Hey, kids, this is what we do in our house. 10% of our income, it's the Lord's. It goes right back to Him. Once you guys are an adult, if you decide to do differently, that's totally your call. But just making that part of what, who we are and what we do.
That's a very good idea. Do you have any special rules in place for internet use? You talked about cell phones. What about the internet? Are they allowed free access to that in their rooms?
No internet in their rooms. That was another thing we learned with Emma that we decided, even after social media, right? You can get on YouTube and watch shorts. Another rule that we implemented was phones, no more phones in the bedrooms because we don't want nothing hidden. And two, you need a time at night to process, to be down, to relax, to unwind, all the things. So that was a rule that we literally implemented, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. And then we also have a software on our kids' phones called Bark. And Bark basically monitors all their activity, which my 15-year-old will tell you. We just spent the day together as a family. We went to the Navy SEAL Museum. And my 9-year-old was in the back. And she's like, "Hey, Mom, can I play a game on your phone?" And I was like, "Garrison, hand Isabella your phone." He's like, "I don't have any games on my phone." He literally only has the ability to call us and like two friends. He's like, "I ain't even got no games on my phone." We all laughed about it. But yeah, and our 11-year-old Noah, he fell into a phone last year, which this happens. So don't beat yourself up, dads, right? You got an extra phone, you got an extra tablet, all of a sudden it's just laying around. And all of a sudden you realize, like, oh, how'd my kid get a device? And that kind of is what happened with Noah. And literally just a couple months ago, I realized, you know what? This kid's on this phone. He just doesn't need it. So we took it away and we just made it the home phone now, where it's only allowed to call a couple numbers and it sits on top of our popcorn machine. And so only our 15-year-old and 17-year-old have a phone. No social media. That's it.
Is there an age at which they'll be allowed to have a phone?
I'd say the phone, like the reason Garrison has a phone, it's more because he's out here and there doing things. But outside of that, I just don't see a need for a phone until that. So it's more based on that. And then once Emma turns 18 in December, if she chooses to have social media or anything like that. But this is the lie that a lot of parents believe, and I do believe it's a lie. We want to teach them about social media and how to use it responsibly. But this is the thing, is social media is not set up in a way for people to consume it responsibly. It is built by billion-dollar companies that are designed to make you a consumer, and they want you to consume what they want to feed you for their agenda. And that's the problem. Even me, I am a Christian man. I have a software on my phone that emails my wife every Sunday morning if there's anything that is anything, right? Like I remember she was looking on my phone on Amazon at swimsuits, and then she got an email on Sunday about it, right? Because so anything. And I recommend that, guys. You want to win the war on pornography and keeping it purity, put the Ever Accountable or one of those apps on your phone, have it email your wife on a Sunday morning. That problem is gone. What was my point, though? But I don't remember what else I was saying about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I forget. What was the question? I had another point on that.
Special rules on the internet and things that they could use and how old they had to be to get a phone.
Oh, yeah, that was my other point I was going to make. So I'm on Facebook and I'm looking at a ad for a Christian men's conference. And literally below it is an ad for pornography. Like that is why you can't teach somebody to use something responsibly. That's like, I want to teach my kids how to be responsible drinkers before they're 21. That's the lie. That's social media. It is set up in a way to get you to consume an agenda and send you down a path. Emma had that. You could be depressed. Is it
Hmm.
possible you're gay? All these things getting thrown in front of her. It's
Right.
just not set up in a way to say, oh, here, let me teach you how to be responsible with this.
And you're right about looking at that screen, and there are 1,000 people on the other side of that screen trying to manipulate you with messages and things like that you're doing. And they find a way to get people angry, keep them angry, and then addicted to come back to get the updates. So
Yeah.
I like that you have put on that big restrictions on that. What about dating? Did you set up any rules for that?
Yeah. We do now. We have a rule. Our rule is we don't do dating. Our rule is we have friendships, and literally, like Emma has, Garrison doesn't have this yet, but Emma has a list up in her bedroom of what she wants her husband to look like, the qualities and characteristics. So she can have friends, and even the friends too. They're friends that you will see out and about. You don't have a bunch of boys' phone numbers on your phone where you can just sit on the phone and talk for hours, because that's not needed. But if you have a friend that you're like, oh, whatever the feelings, thoughts, you guys can hang out in groups of three is the minimum of a group, and it's not allowed to be a boyfriend. And it would literally be, this is my friend. I really like them. I think this could be a potential husband. And then it would be, okay, now we're all meeting together and having conversations. So as far as dating, that's another thing. I just don't see that as a biblical thing. I feel like that's another, right? Just like all these fake holidays and things that were created throughout the years and all, I just don't see a need for it, because with dating comes pressure from other friends. Oh, which base have you gone to? Have you done this? Have you done? And so my rule for Emma is you're not allowed to date.
Okay.
She has a boy right now that is friends with her, and it was really my son's friend to start with, and the three of them hang out. And I literally said this, Greg called me crazy. I said, hey, if you guys feel this strong connection and you think that this could be the man that you could marry, I said, let's sit down together with her parents and let's have a conversation. Honey, you're 17 years old. If you think this is your husband, I will sign the papers for you guys to get married at 17 years old. That's
Wow.
literally what I said. I said, why go into a dating relationship? Why go into a situation where you guys are alone together with the hormones and the feel, all the things? I said, if you think this is your husband, because that's the whole end goal, right? The end goal of dating is like, is this my spouse? So I said, perfect, let's take it there then. Do you think this is your husband? Right? To get her to realize, like, and her conclusion is, no, I don't think it's my husband. I'm excited to go to Whack-A-Mom, but to help her realize that, right? Because
Right.
of all how the world presents relationships and datings and this and that. So the rule in my house now that I learned from child number one is we don't do dating.
Okay. Can guys come over and hang out at your house with her?
Oh yeah,
Is
very
like in the
much.
living
Yeah.
room? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We can hang out. Yep. We're not in the bedrooms. It's nothing hidden. There's no no blankets, no lights off. It's, yeah, come on over. Join us for dinner. Let's play some family games. Let's get to know you. For
That's a
sure. Yeah.
that's a great idea. Who helped her develop that list of characteristics for the ideal husband? Was that you or your wife?
Me and mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super.
Yep.
I think that's very good because it eliminates all this. Ooh, there's a hot guy. I think I'd like to get to know him, but he doesn't check off any of the things on the top 10 list of things that I want out of a husband. So that's a
Yeah.
really good idea. Uh, How do you balance protection with her desire to have independence?
Mostly all those guardrails that we have in place is how we do that. And part of it too, that's another thing where it's like, I just need my independence. I need my freedom. I need this and that. That's great. Just you do it within these guardrails. You're always in groups of three. At a certain time, your phone is on the charger in the kitchen. Oh, you want to hang out with this kid? Okay, they need to come over. We need to meet them. One thing that we stopped doing with our children is we stopped doing sleepovers.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not like the world was when I was a kid. I'm 47 years old. The world's not like that anymore. So we stopped doing sleepovers. Everyone's in their bed at night. We have the curfews, and it's just having clear expectations and guardrails of this is what we do, and it's not this is what we do because I told you. Like, when you were a kid and your parents said that you hated that, don't do that to your kid. It's because I said so. No, take the time to explain why. Have the hard conversation. You know why, honey? Because at 9 o'clock at night and you're hanging out with a boy and it starts getting dark, guess what? The hormones in that boy are going wild, and he's going to tell you he loves you and you're going to be his bride someday so he can get a kiss on the cheek. And guess what? His end goal is not a kiss on the cheek. And guess what? You might think you have all this restraint and all these things, but once those chemicals start flying.
Do you allow people to sleep over at your house?
We do a little bit here and there, but not much. For the most part, we've cut that out because
Okay.
we realized too, with our kids and their school schedule and then working at the restaurant, like when you do a sleepover, you're up super late, then you
Hmm.
wake up and you right, it can throw off the whole next day. There's just no need. We're preparing them to be adults. I don't go do sleepovers at my friends' houses. We go out to dinner, we play some cards, we hang out, we talk, and then you go home and you get in your bed. Like, I get it, 2, 5, 7, 9, 10 years old, sure. Or it's the cousins are in town or you're traveling, it's the holiday, stuff like that. But to have your buddy over every single weekend and they're playing video games till midnight, 1 in the morning, and then it's just
I
it,
agree wholeheartedly. For your groups of three policy, is that allowed two guys and one gal to go out together?
we haven't really had a scenario like that. But if I knew the group of three, I'd say that comes back to that discernment thing.
Okay.
Like, because typically most times for Emma it is two guys and a girl because it's her brother Garrison, his friend Randy, and her. So
Okay.
most scenarios it's them going and hanging out. They're going out to eat, going bowling, something like that.
If you could roll the clock back, is there anything you'd do differently?
Yeah, all the things that I just said that we do, I just would have started doing them earlier with Emma. Is just having those clear guardrails, guidelines. I never would have allowed social media. The more parameters on the phone. It's just kids. It's what we've learned. We go out, we give them a little, we let them go do a little, and then it's time to come back and even when we were full-time RVers, we realized like we would be meeting new people all the time at different campgrounds. And what we realized is they'd go out, they'd meet these kids like, oh yeah, this girl just told me she's a fairy from this land, and this is what her family believes. I'm like, oh, okay. And right. And then we get on the road and we travel for a couple days and they had time to process and recalibrate and think through and realize, Dad, I just realized no, there's not fairies aren't real. But if your kids are constantly going, running, staying out late, sleepover, the next they're gone all weekend, they get home late Sunday night to prepare for school on Monday, they have no time to recalibrate, to
Right.
process, to rehydrate, to think, any of that stuff. So that would be one thing that I would definitely do is just the things that we've learned, and praise God that we've learned a lot of these major guardrails that we have in place now with number two. And then too, it's just you got to realize too, they process different. You have to treat them different. Punishments look different, right? One child, it could just be as simply as you could say, hey, you let me down, and you can know that just breaks their heart knowing they let dad down. Where another child that like, no, it's phone's gone for the week. You're grounded for the week. You're gonna do these chores because they only learn through the pain of the consequence. Or
So
another one is as simple as letting you down.
it's a very good point that you need to learn the love languages for each individual child because they are so different. One is motivated by gifts, the other by words of affirmation. And it's just good for you to be able to do that. So you know the love languages for each of your kids?
Yeah, we have that up on our fridge in the kitchen, and actually a couple of our kids' friends too. We have their love languages written. A couple of the kids that we've really spoken to their life, who mainly don't have a father figure present. We've learned some of their love languages and learned their love language. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Did you make any parenting mistakes that taught you a deep lesson?
Yeah, I would say the biggest mistake I feel like I learned was letting Emma date, honestly,
Okay.
was letting her have that boyfriend
Mhm.
because this is the thing, especially with boys, they're going to say all the things they need to do to impress the girl, to impress the parent. And that happened. We had this boy with Emma, and man, he started coming to church with us and all the things. He did all the things, and it only takes a couple times of getting away unsupervised. And unfortunately, that's what happened with Emma and this boy. They got away unsupervised, and they ended
Mhm.
up doing what you as a parent would hope they didn't.
That would be a big lesson to learn. So things are going to be easier for Isabella then, is what you're saying. You've made all the mistakes on the other three.
The thing with Isabella, I told Tina, I said, man, the Lord saved this one for last because this little 9-year-old girl, she could beat up any of her siblings. She's learning to be a barrel racer right now, if that tells you anything. She is a tough little cowgirl. She was did karate for a while, and she is a strong little girl. And two, very confident. Like I've seen this little girl, like 5, 6 years old, like you're my boyfriend. Like this boy's like, I'm scared. Like so, Isabella, we're definitely gonna have God left her for last, so we can really focus all her energies. We're gonna keep her on that horse barrel racing and doing all the things. But
I
uh,
love that you taught her karate or took her classes. I think that's so important for girls to know those basic self defense maneuvers and things like that.
yeah.
It really builds their confidence as well, and it helps them to set boundaries. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, so does. Yeah, Isabella's done karate, she's done gymnastics, and now her passion is horses. She's learning to be a barrel racer.
Hope you got lots of money. I heard that is the most expensive hobby a child can have is raising a horse.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, my buddy who traveled the country with his daughter, he said he mortgaged his house. It was $100,000 for the trailer and truck, and this was 20 something years ago. But the Lord really blessed us with Isabella. She was in our restaurant couple months ago, and we're in Okeechobee, Florida, which is Cowtown, USA. There's cowboys everywhere. She's drawing pictures and handing them out to people and telling people her story and all this stuff. And I kid you not, this guy, Mr. Hoot, said, Gar, give me a call. I want to talk to you about something. And he ended up giving her a horse just a couple months ago. There's a little bit of a caveat. This horse was the secretary of the American Quarter Horse Association, the secretary of that whole association. This was her horse that developed kissing spine disease, which is this rare disease where you can't ride it anymore. Mr. Hoot said, I'm going to give you this horse that was given to him. And then when the horse is in heat, I have somebody who owes me a breeding. We're going to breed this horse, Isabella, and you're going to have a purebred quarter horse that you're going to be able to race on. So she's going to end up with $100,000 horse
What?
for free.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, what a story.
So amazing.
That is incredible. Do you have any advice for dads who are entering the stages that you're in right now? So you have a late teen and a late elementary, early tween daughter?
Yeah, my advice is no matter what age, is the number one priority of you as a dad is making sure you keep your heart connection with your child, of making sure that your child knows that no matter what choice that you make or the child makes, that you love them, that you accept them. That's the number one priority. My wife and I were just talking about this the other night, just reminding ourselves the other night, walking through some stuff with our 15-year-old boy, is just reminding ourselves our number one priority is keeping our hearts connected. And one of the main ways we do that is what the Lord taught us is we call it prophetic parenting, is always calling out the gold. It's so
Mm,
easy to point out all the negative things that are going on,
yes.
always pointing out, hey, Garrison, even the little, you might feel like, man, I got nothing right now. Hey, Garrison, great job opening that door for your mom. You are such a gentleman, such a young man of honor. Just all those little things, pulling out all those gold because it encourages them and it encourages you. Right? It makes me think of in the Psalms where it says David encouraged himself in the Lord. Like it encourages you as a parent to remember when your child is making certain decisions, like, no, there is gold in there. This is my child. This is God's child. There is good in there. And you have to do that and keep that heart connected, because if you lose that heart connection, you're in trouble. But if you keep the heart connected, it don't matter what you're walking through with that child. They're going to feel safe and loved, and they can come to you and empty that teapot and be real and raw and vulnerable and share their screw ups.
I love that about calling out the gold in your child, because you get more of what you notice, right? And so if you're paying attention and those are the words of affirmation that you're giving to them, they feel good and they want to do more of that. That's great advice. How can people connect with you, Garr, if they'd like to ask you a question or just follow you? Are you on social media?
If you go to garrussell.com, GARRRUSSELL.com, that website there has links to like our businesses. You can download any of my books for free. There's links to Amazon if you like to hold it in your hand to make notes. There's my Facebook and YouTube and all the different links on there.
Super. Thank you very much for sharing your story with me today. I loved it. I'm sure it's going to inspire a lot of fathers.
Thanks for what you're doing. This is going to inspire a lot of fathers.
Garr Russell is very intentional about how he raises his daughters, and there are a few lessons every dad can take away from this conversation. First, your presence matters more than your solutions. Sometimes your daughter doesn't need advice, she just needs you to listen and be available when she's ready to talk. Second, guardrails create freedom. Whether it's limiting social media, setting boundaries on phones, or being intentional about friendships, structure actually helps kids to thrive. Third, focus on identity. When your daughter knows who she is and what she stands for, she's far less likely to be pulled in the wrong direction. Fourth, call out the good. Garr talked about calling out the gold in his kids. That's a powerful reminder of what you notice and affirm is what will grow. And finally, keep the heart connection strong. At the end of the day, if your daughter knows she's loved and safe with you, she'll keep coming back to you no matter what life throws her way. If you'd like to connect with Garr, you can visit his website at www.garrussell.com. From there, you'll find his books, content, and ways to follow what he's doing. If you found value in this episode of the Dodo Dads podcast, please share it with another father who could use the encouragement. You're also welcome to join the Dodo Dads Facebook group too, because the world needs more great girl dads. Thank you for listening.